state Islamic or insurgent group into the country. I also saw another attack in Niger. Niger is just a country that is very close to Nigeria. Boko Haram, they attacked the army state base. And finally, the first person to be infected by Ebola in Guinea, or who contracted Ebola, I mean, in Ivory Coast, was announced today that he has recovered from the disease. And since 1994, this is the first state that people like that, somebody have contracted Ebola from the state. Now, to dive into this news in details, in Joy State and Nigeria, over 30 people were reportedly killed by Islamic State insurgents, or they will call them, or some people claim that they are Boko Haram, and others are claiming that they are Salafi State. But before this time, last month, there was a report that some Christian brothers attacked the Muslim people within Joy State, that is Plateau, and they killed a lot of Muslims. So in retaliation, yesterday, some people ran the town by hacking people to death. Some of them were slaughtered, while others' houses were set ablaze in retaliation of the death of that particular, or the killing of certain Muslims before this time. Another important story developing in West Africa is in Niger. Niger is a country that is very close to Nigeria. Also share borders with Cameroon. Boko Haram actually went and attacked one of the army base into the country by killing over 200 soldiers and setting the entire some part of the army base on fire. And it had been widely noticed that Niger has come on a series of attacks because of their involvement into the fight against Boko Haram. And Boko Haram has taken Niger to be one of the areas where normally they take their attack and do whatsoever malicious practices into the country. And Niger is also vulnerable in terms of their economy, poor economy development. The army is not strong enough to protect itself against any Boko Haram attack. And also in the western part of Africa, we have seen that Ivory Coast, the first person to contract Ebola in Ivory Coast since 1994 has actually recovered. This man contracted the virus when he left from Guinea. He went into Ivory Coast, and after he developed some signs of fever, he reported himself to the hospital. Based on the lab test he conducted, it was decided that the man was Ebola positive. But because of the strong medical facility and him being the only patient without any other further traces of contact, now the health ministry over there has reported that the fellow has recovered from his illness, and finally the country is set to protect itself against any foreign invasion like that. So far so good. These are some of the important news emanating from Africa.
Thank you very much, Edward Amara. Definitely a lot is happening around the continent, and good news from Zambia there for the opposition leader defeated the incumbent, and that's great news for African democracy, and a lot of things is happening around the continent. But for the sake of today's broadcast, we'll be focusing on the topic, the trial of Jacob Zuma, the former president of South Africa. Let's take our first question. Why is Jacob Zuma on trial? Edward, this first question is very interesting because, I've been following this story since last year when the former president of South Africa was accused of corruption, money laundering from 1999 up to this point. And I'm very, very surprised because I know Jacob Zuma is someone who we know was an apartheid hero. He participated in the struggle against the white dominant rule in South Africa. He fought alongside with Nelson Mandela. He fought alongside with the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa. So seeing someone like that as a symbol of South African revolution and liberation, someone who has fought for the masses, wanted the freedom, the economic freedom of his people, wanted equality, social justice. Suddenly, for the same person now to be accused of corruption, money laundering, for bribing European companies, and then amassing a lot of wealth for himself. So, Jacob Zuma, why is he on trial? Some people say because he's having some problem within the party, the ANC, that he and the cabal within the party are having some disagreement. So they are trying to punish him. On the other hand, Some people are saying, no, this guy is very corrupt. He has been pretending all this while to be a freedom fighter, but he's a very, very corrupt man. And he participated in the destruction of modern South Africa. And he is, in fact, a criminal that needs to be put behind bars. What's your view on this?
Oh, thank you very much. You see, when you watch at it from the African perspective, you will understand that Jacob Zuma is on trial because of his corrupt practices carried out during the time of his office, on taken back from the past, from past 1994, 1995, 1996, coming towards this particular stage here. That is why, to we in the African perspective, we must understand that is why he's on trial for corruption, embezzlement, mismanagement of state farm, even awarding contract to people who are not due to, like the Gumta family, who are very notorious in their family, that have been widely celebrated in their own corrupt attitude. That is why, to we who are liberated Africans who watch at it from that independent view, you must understand. But if you contact the ordinary South African, he will tell you that, or he or she will tell you that Jacob Zuma is on trial because of what? Of political bias attitude, because his own win is no longer powerful into the ANC party. We must understand that the ANC party is a kind of factional party where you have the Zuma-led win. You also have the Cyril Ramaphosa-led win that is actually having connection with former President Thabo Mbeki. But Jacob Zuma actually is on trial because of what? In the first place, he has been accused on numerous occasions for corruption. Corruption like involvement into state capture, embezzlement into a kind of arm deal that he was actually called upon to explain. That is why he is in prison. But his trial stage now, it is because of corruption, embezzlement, mismanagement of state funds, using his office as a statesman to carefully corrupt the South African economy, enrich himself, even having unexplained wealth, and empowering people who have once been seen as oppressors of the South Africans. When you watch at the South African society today, it's one of the most divisive society that we have. People with submersive and criminal mentality being carefully planted into the South African economy, ravaging everything that they have today and letting the ordinary South African to go to go in bed without having enough to eat. And when you watch South Africa, everything about the country is totally corrupt. So in short, Jacob Zuma is on trial because of mismanagement of public funds, corruption, embezzlement, and plundering the state into a total economic wahala.
Yeah, but Edward, here's my problem. We understand in a democratic system, you are innocent until proven guilty, right? Is that not what they say in the due process, that you are innocent until proven guilty? So at this point, we can say Jacob Zuma is innocent until he's proven guilty in a competent court of jurisdiction. But why is he now in jail? They say contempt of court so he'll be sentenced for 15 months. Do you think that's too harsh? It's not, because some people are saying that this is witch hunt. Because if it is not witch hunt and you want fair trial, let the man go through the process. But he's going through the process, and then now suddenly they say contempt of court or whatever, and they sentence him for 15 months. So his supporters are crying foul that this is witch hunt. You see?
It's not witch hunt. That is what I'm saying. They are going to term it as witch hunt. But Jacob Zuma is not being in prison for 15 months, though he has the opportunity to work out on parole when he served his first 4 months into prison. He's being sent into prison because of a contempt of court. Jacob Zuma was in power as a president. The state does not, because the president have that personal immunity that you cannot hold him responsible for any corrupt act done while he's in office, or you cannot hold a sitting president and send him to prison as someone that has that presidential power within his own confinement. But then he was called upon by the state judge or the Supreme Court to go and explain a corrupt arm deal, that a kind of a deal that people actually term as a kind of corrupt arm deal that they run in something around 1994. He refused. So he used his official power or the presidential power to defy the court order. He did not go. And now Jacob Zuma is no longer president. He's an ordinary South African, though still being termed as the former president, and he's been accorded that respect. But I think that the legal system within South Africa deemed it necessary that he was actually given that immunity by them because he had the presidential power confined on him. The court never had that absolute authority to ask him to come into prison because he defied. But when he defied a court order, they serve you a bench warrant, and if you fail to come, they still have the right to send you to prison. So that is why he has been sent into prison for 15 good months, but yet he's not been convicted. So you must realize that even if just Jacob Zuma were to be convicted after the trial, the 15 months that he's serving is not part of his sentence. He's only serving this particular 15 months because he defied the court order. So his supporters who have been colonized by the Zuma mentality, who may not watch at it that South African way and trying to see that nobody's above the law, because a man is always presumed innocent whenever he or she is being accused of having committed a crime, until they are proven guilty before a competent court of law. But it was that same competent court of law that ordered Jacob Zuma to come and explain himself on a corrupt armed deal that he ran in 1994. He refused, but he used his presidential power to circumvent the court order. Now he's no longer a president. Now Nimisi has actually come to haunt him. That is why. So, but he's not on trial and he has never been found guilty. But his supporters who are sympathizing with the idea may try to explain it into their own perspective.
Okay. So, looking at the nature of the accusation against Jacob Zuma, first of all, I want to express my disappointment because, you see, South Africans have come a long way. These are people that suffered a lot. They were among the last people to gain independence on the continent. But the South Africa of apartheid was actually a rich state. Even though we know that the majority of Black people were suffering, but South Africa of apartheid was almost like a regional superpower or continental superpower. It was the strongest state on the continent. South Africa used to have nuclear weapons. South Africa used to have the best military. But when the white guys lost power and gave it to our African brothers, they turned everything into a show. They turned everything into tribal and village stealing and all these kinds of unfortunate behavior. And Jacob Zuma, someone who have fought in the trenches, someone who stood in the trenches and fought alongside, that such a person now should be accused of corruption, money laundering, and all these kind of things. For me, it's a kind of disappointment for Africans that this selfish attitude of putting ourselves first before our people. After Mandela and then Thabo Mbeki, we thought that South Africa was on the road to progress until Jacob Zuma came in. So actually, before we move to the next question, Amara, why do you think African leaders are always the best when they are in opposition? But once they get into power, they become the beast. What's the root cause of this?
Well, sometimes somebody will tell you that absolute power corrupts system. Absolutely. I think the power given to our African leaders, especially the Constitution, enable them or give them an enabling grant for corruption. We have seen this on numerous occasions. When, as you rightly said, if you have educated, experienced, or extrovert people into opposition, they tend to lambast, reprimand, or criticize the government on every aspect that they move. But immediately these people come into power, they tend to be more corrupt than the one that we are even accusing. And we have seen this. South Africa is not an exception. I think we need to revisit our African constitution. And we should know the type of people that we should elect into power. We have other or other countries in the world that are corrupt, but they are not equally corrupt as the way our African brothers are carefully placed themselves into an act of corruption. It is because the constitution give them a lot of power, that they actually use this particular constitutional power to corrupt everything that they have. And I think we do not have patriotic leader, because all we are speaking about patriotism here. We need to have, apart, because you have three branches of government. You have the executive that is headed by the president, you have the legislative that is headed by the speaker, then you have the judiciary that is headed by the chief justice. Unfortunately, you have a well-corrupt system of Africans who cannot even watch their president, whom they elected, to impeach him based on corruption, because the member of parliament themselves are corrupt. The judiciary system is also corrupt. So if you decide to impeach the president, you must have collaborated with him into such corruption. So we do not have, because when you watch at it, the Nelson Mandela legacy is being abandoned. As you rightly said, when Nelson Mandela took over, South Africa was better. When South Africa was under apartheid, you may say the economy was very good. They have a very strong army, but we are living in kind of total deprived system, because minority we are only enjoying and leading. Now the majority are in control, but the system is totally corrupt. The economy is being drained because of corrupt practice. I think we need to have patriotic leaders who may not only criticize government when they are in power, who can even choose to resign when their president does something wrong and he does not want to take corruption. How many of our African leaders have willingly resigned? The South African system have the recalling system. But before you don't recall the man. In fact, do anything that you can to prevent you recalling the man, to protect him, and also instruct him not to practice corruption. But when this thing are exposed, that is why we see they try to recall the president because of corrupt practices. So I think we do not have patriotic leaders. They still have that colonial mentality. The imperialist mentality is still growing up into most of our leaders.
Thank you very much, Edward Amara. That will lead us to the next question. What is the implication of his trial on African democracy? That is Jacob Zuma. What is the implication of his trial on African democracy? And this question is very important because usually African leaders are untouchable, right? We say we have check and balance of power, we have the rule of law, but these things are written in beautiful books and kept under our decks. But in real life, they are not practicalized. African leaders, whether they are in power or not, they are untouchable. It's very rare to see an ex-president in Africa be held accountable, except for witch hunt. Usually not for transparency. It's usually maybe the new guy that comes to power wants to show that he has power, that he'll be doing some witch hunt or for tribal reasons or whatever. But to have a fair trial, to have transparency, to understand why the former leader, to audit the outgoing government, it's very rare. Like Liberia, for example, we've seen that unfolded right before our eyes. George Manneh Weah came to power, and before he came to power, there were corruption scandals everywhere against the former president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. The Sirleaf government was corrupt. She was surrounded by a lot of corrupt ministers, and we expected the new president to audit his predecessor, so that there will be transparency, so that the country will know that all these accusations here and there, they are either unfounded or there are some elements of truth into them, so that the new government also will come with clean hands. But unfortunately, it's like these people, they connive against the people, because George Weah came in and then he was silent. He only says, my predecessors were corrupt on TV. But in reality, when you say, okay, then put it into practice, audit them, bring out the papers, let's see the work, let's see the receipts. He says no. So the corruption, people steal money, people do state capture, and then they go free of charge. But what we are seeing in South Africa is a breath of fresh air, where the ruling party, the current ruling party, is now investigating its own. Okay, Jacob Zuma is from the ANC, and the ANC is still in power. And they are saying, look, we want to know what you did. And if you are innocent, go before the court and prove your innocence. So I think for African democracy, this shows some type of maturity. It shows that now accountability is being taken seriously. that just because you've been given authority or position of power does not mean that you are untouchable. You cannot do what you like and then always go free. It will never happen again, because the more we keep doing that, then people will see that, look, when I get into politics, all I need to do is steal. And as long as I can bribe the police and then bribe all these people, I will always be free. You see, so the trial of Jacob Zuma is shows us that this new dispensation want something new. We want transparency. The Africans now want their leaders to be held accountable, both the current leaders and the former leaders. So I think that's what it shows. What's your view, Amara?
Thank you very much. I think we have seen an African society where we have carefully prepared laws documented, but they are not effective in terms of implementation. We have laws that are in theory, but they are not in practical aspect. And we know Jacob Zuma is not the only former president to be accused of corruption. We have a lot of former presidents in South Africa who have been accused or who are accused of corruption, but these people are still dwelling in our countries, going court-free, living without impunity, and they even have the opportunity to lambast current system. And when they should be in prison, they shouldn't be enjoying this free, peaceful atmosphere that we are all enjoying. So the implication of Jacob Zuma on the African democracy, the implication of Jacob Zuma trials on the African democracy is absolutely huge. In the first place, it is going to create an enabling ground for all former presidents to be put on trial for any corrupt practice or practices that they might have done during their time of office. We have seen even in Sierra Leone, we have seen the former president, Ernest Bai Koroma, has been accused of corruption, and he still have a case to be investigated. Pending on the investigation, is definitely going to be prosecuted into court, and if he's found guilty, he's going to serve good prison time. And we have also seen in Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was actually accused of corruption, and no investigation like that was actually carried on. We have seen in places like Zambia, like Frederick Chilubya, Levi Wanazasa, other people, we are actually being accused of corruption. People like that, we are definitely not tried. We have seen what Blade Compaore did in Burkina Faso when he was there. Now today, that man is carefully living in Burkina Faso, and he has nothing like that that is actually trampled upon him. The list continue. Look at we have Yahya Jammeh staying today in Equatorial Guinea, peacefully living in Malabo, and he carefully corrupted that particular African country and manipulated everything. We have seen numerous occasions how Guinea-Bissau, Kumbayala, other people have been accused of corruption. Look at Senegal, it's the same thing. So I think the trial of Jacob Zuma is a very important thing, because it is going to have a positive implication if only it has been done genuinely, or it will be done genuinely. And because we are seeing ANC persecuting her own person, ANC is taking a court case against Jacob Zuma. But we should also know that it is because ANC is divided. Because you are no longer having a homogeneous ANC. You're having a deeply divided ANC that are rooted with parties with different ideology within it. And most of them want to hold on to power and forget about it. Because you cannot even say Cyril Ramaphosa can be totally taken away out of everything Jacob Zuma has done, because he was his deputy leader. He was the deputy leader of the ANC at the same time serving as the vice president of South Africa. And he is also one of the strongest apartheid hero into South Africa. And he's a wealthy businessman, well placed, and a kind of orator. So you must understand that the trial may be going, but there are kind of vindictive measure being carried against the Jacob Zuma own party. That is, but that doesn't mean that Jacob was not corrupt. Jacob is corrupt. He has to be tried. He has to be prosecuted. But if another person is to take over ANC, will he do it generally? Now, even the Secretary General of ANC is under trial, and that man is a potential person that will likely replace Cyril Ramaphosa should he go for his second term in office, win, and the ANC need to present another candidate. So I think it's going to have a positive impact. That will tell you that African leaders should never go unpunished for any corrupt practice. If Jacob Zuma can be tried, convicted and sent to prison, that one will send a very good positive image to to across Africa, and most African leaders who have been found guilty will definitely go to prison. Hussein Abri died yesterday. He was another corrupt person who was tried by a kind of a West African court because of what? Of his heavy-handedness that he used in time of ruling Chad. He killed over 200,000 people and even carry on mass killing, even want to make some ethnic cleansing into Chad because of political power. So yesterday he died of COVID-19 in prison. So I think we need to have our former presidents charged for their corrupt actions.
Thank you very much. Amara, I agree with you, and I agree with you more. Our leaders need to be held accountable. The current ones and the former leaders, because when you serve the people, when you take public office, that place requires a lot of transparency. It's not your private business. It's not your private company. Even in your own private company, sometimes you need to be audited. The government needs to know your taxes and all that, let alone public office. Okay, so when you hold public office, you have to come out clean. We need to know. Okay, people need to know your life is now public. Everything you do with public, so we have to know. So people should stop hiding this and hiding that. Even coming to say, look, put out declaration of asset. Some leaders are even having cold feet. When you tell them to declare their asset, they have cold feet, and they want to lead. They want to be transparent. Like seriously, declare your asset, and when you leave power, we need to audit you and know what you've done and what you've not done, because so the office can be clean for the next person that is coming in. But corruption on top of corruption, covering out and covering out, like Brempo said, we digging hole and covering hole. Okay, that's not going to solve any problem. We need to come clean. So with that, we will take a short break. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't go away. Stay with us. We will be back in a few minutes. And when we come back, we have 3 more questions to discuss. And the topic for today, as you know, is the trial of Jacob Zuma. So please stay with us. We take this short break.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Thank you for watching Focus on Liberia. This is Roundtable Africa, and I am Sekou Keller, your host, here with my co-host Edward Amara at Roundtable Africa. We are discussing the topic, the trial of Jacob Zuma of South Africa, the former president of South Africa. We will take our next question. Should former presidents in Africa be held accountable? I think we were just discussing this, Edward Amara, before we took our break. Should former presidents in Africa be held accountable? The answer is, it's in affirmation, yes. Former presidents should be held accountable, not just former president, ministers. Anyone that holds public office should be held accountable. Accountability is necessary for good governance. If you are not accountable, there is no need for you to hold public office. If our former president Laurent Gbagbo used to say, if you want to be rich, then politics and public office is not your area. That's not the place people go to get rich. If you get rich in public office, that means you are corrupt. That means you committed genocide silently. That means you destroyed destinies of thousands of people in order for you to amass that wealth. You are a killer. That's how you got that wealth. If you go to public office, you were driving bike yesterday and you go to public office within 2 months, You now have SUVs parking all over on your compound. You are a criminal. Because if we look at your basic salary, we know that it's not going to give you all those luxurious lifestyle that you are now having. It's because you bend the system. You took advantage of the system. It's because you destroy your country. That's how you got all those wealth. That's why this transparency is necessary. Former presidents are not untouchable. They are not gods. They are not kings. And people should understand democracy does not produce kings. We produce presidents, leaders. They are not rulers. And these leaders have been given authority. And in democracy, the power, we always say that everybody knows that power belongs to the people. It is the people who are in charge. They are supreme. They give the authority to individuals to be able to run the affairs of the state. These individuals are employees. They are not kings. They are not gods. And they must be held accountable. So even if you vote for a president and other people are calling that president to be accountable, you don't have to be angry. That's part of the job description. You have to be accountable. You need to tell us how you spent our $2, how you spent our $3. If we cannot have that, that means we don't have a country. We don't have a system. So all former presidents should be held accountable. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of my country right now should be in court. She should be answering a lot of questions. But nothing was done. She's flying around. She's talking, tweeting, saying a lot of things, even, saying some outrageous things, in fact, because the system allowed her to go free. And the current president in power let her off the hook so that he too can be let off the hook by the next president. So it will be corruption, a generational corruption from one generation to the other, and you can never have solution. So we need transparency. We need accountability. All former presidents must be brought to book. We must check their record, their spending, their foreign policies, the bilateral agreement they signed. Did they collect bribes? What happened? So that the office will be cleaned up and sanctified for the new government to come in. For those of you in religious cycle, you know what sanctification is. You sanctify something, you clean it, you make it clean and holy for Holy Spirit to dwell in that vessel. So that's how the public officers need to be sanctified in order for new leaders to take over. But you cannot be putting dirt up top dirt and expect cleanliness. It will never happen. So Edward Amara, that's my own view. I think it's a necessary requirement that we must audit every former leader in African government. What's your view?
Oh, thank you very much. I think what we normally misinterpret into Africa is like when we say when you watch at democracy and you relate it to good governance. I think good governance is a bit different from democracy, because good governance and they set the good space for democracy. We know there are a lot of democratic government into Africa, those who actually came into power through the ballot box. They may have gotten the majority of votes at the end of the day, because all about democracy is about numbers. But we talk now about good governance. Good governance, we talk about, in fact, there are 8 good pillars of good governance that we should almost always think of. In the first place, any kind of country where they are running a good governance system, we must have what we call participatory. Everybody must be willing to participate into that particular government. It doesn't mean that we must have everybody should come on board to take decision. No, but the citizens must be willing to involve into any type of governance system, and it should be something that is consensuous. It means you must lead me, make laws with my own consent. Laws shouldn't be made to violate my own rights, and whatsoever thing that you are doing as a government, it should be actually be on my own will, and I should also have consent towards it. It should be accountable. That is exactly what we are saying. We know when you are being given an office, a public office like that, to discharge a responsibility on behalf of the populace, it is our responsibility to hold you responsible for any kind of good or bad that you may have done into your office. So We expect such cutting government like that to be, and we also expect transparency to be part of that government. We expect the government to be responsive. We expect it to be effective. It should be efficient, and above all, there should be that equitable and inclusive learning to any government. So coming towards that, I think every former president need to be held responsible for all good things or bad things that they, if you have done anything that is bad into your office, it is your responsibility to come and explain it. That one is going to set a precedent for all other people who may have the intention to come into power, because we have seen that people are using power to corrupt system and think that they can still use that power to work with impunity. So if we have started trying our former president, if we found them guilty, they should serve their own prison time, their property confiscated, and at the same time, most of what they may have abroad seized from them, and they serve prison time. I think we are going to set a very good precedent into Africa. But we are seeing in Africa where we have people who have corrupted our system in the past. These people are still having say into our present system because they are well pleased. You have a judiciary system where lawyers are so corrupt, they serve the government at the end of the day. If you cannot dance to their political team, they kick you out. You are having parliamentarians who cannot easily stand and defend the constituency where they came from, rather they are there holding brown envelope. You are just having a kind of well orchestrated corrupt system. So if you think that you are going to fight against you, they will try to ostracize you, criticize you, lambast you. We need to have an active political system, a very civil, active civil society base for those who will be lambasting this system. I think each and every former president that actually serve our countries should be held responsible for anything bad they may have done. It is not only in Africa. You have seen that in South Korea. One of their former president is in prison today. We have seen that in Brazil. We have seen that in Malaysia. So why is Africa living as a kind of a safe haven for our former president who have previously corrupted our system, and today we are living in a penniless situation because of their corrupt practices? Yet these people are wallowing into their wealth. I think it will set a very good precedent into Africa if Jacob Zuma can be convicted, sent to prison. I think that one is going to produce a positive wave into Africa. You will see most of our former leaders behaving, or our current leaders behaving responsibly. Because if you did anything wrong now, at the end of the day, somebody will definitely hold you responsible. But at least we need to have a kind of corrupt-free judicial system. For now, most of our judicial systems are well placed in corruption.
Thank you very much, Edward Amara. Talking about this holding former president accountable, that reminds me of Nigeria. I live in Nigeria for a few years and I understand their system there. Nigeria has, according to United Nations, 86.5 million people in Nigeria live in abject poverty. In fact, in 2005, Nigeria became the poverty capital of the world. It took over from India as the poverty capital of the world. But the former presidents of Nigeria are billionaires. In fact, Sani Abacha, the late head of state, Sani Abacha, who ruled between, I think, around the late 90s. He died in power. Sani Abacha money says that since the 90s up to this point, they are still recovering some of his money from the Swiss bank. Billions of dollars. Former president of Nigeria, IBB, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, according to one report that was done when I was there some years back, they said the money he has in his account in Nigeria alone, every Nigerian can receive 1 million naira and he will still have at least 200 million left in his account. If every Nigerian is given 1 million naira, he will still have about 200 million naira left in his account. And this guy, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, who ruled between 1985 to from 1985 up to, I think, 1990 or so, or 1999. Babangida, he lived in a city called Mina. I live in that city as well. In fact, one part of the city, he bought an entire part of the city and turned it into a paradise where he lives. And there's a particular street that passes in front of that estate. No car, the citizens are not allowed to pass there. He controls almost a quarter of the city. That's where he lived, with security, with all those. He's a former president, head of state. And no audit has been done on him. Nobody questioned how he got those wealth, but he's a billionaire. Okay. Abdul Salam, former head of state also, that ruled for one year, just 1 year, 1999 to before he handed over to Obasanjo in 2000. Abdul Salam is a billionaire. Obasanjo himself, you know, it's if you want to count it, I'm telling you, you will have there is no stopping point, because the thing is just annoying. And Nigeria is suffering. Nigeria is very, very poor. It is 6-something million people in poverty, and the former head of state are billionaires. Where did they get the money? Why are they not being audited?
That is the irony in Africa. Yeah, it's an irony. In Africa, we hate corruption, but yes, we choose to love the corrupt people. We are aware of the fact that our African leaders are carefully planted in corruption. We, the citizens,
sorry for cutting you off. The current president, Buhari, who is called the incorruptible president, and his son just had a wedding last week. In the wedding, people went there. The visitor that went there, they gave away package. That is, when you go there as a visitor, the package they gave you, there was latest iPhone. The latest iPhone was put in everybody's giveaway package to visitors. Thousands of visitors that went there. And you know how much one iPhone, the latest iPhone, how much it cost? He gave that to each visitor that went there. And the son of the president is not working. He's a student. Where did he get the money? Who is going to audit? Nobody's going to talk. So sorry for cutting you off. That's to show you the corruption right there in capital letter.
Yeah, you're right. You're actually right. As I was saying, we hate corruption, but we love the corrupt. And we actually know that our leaders are very corrupt. And we know their status before ever they came to power. And within the shortest period of time, you may see them, they will accumulate huge amount of money on unexplained wealth. Instead of us trying to criticize the system, we may tend to celebrate it. Most of those things, we're actually abusing our right. I think it is high time this former president are prosecuted, and we set a kind of clear example, an epitome of example need to be set into Africa, that we may be able to weed the country out of corruption. But for now, it is very unfortunate that even we, because of poverty, our real way of thinking have been clouded. Our mentality of judging things the right way have definitely been taken in the name of bribe. Because look at that. How can you offer iPhone? You see, you breach the, in fact, even breaching a kind of state. It's corruption. They breach the state law, violated COVID-19 principle, do whatsoever thing. It's unfortunate.
Definitely, it's very, very unfortunate. And we hope that the new generation will do something different, because we cannot continue with this cycle, this vicious cycle of evil, of wickedness, or supporting wickedness. It is corruption when it is not in my camp. But once it's in my camp, then it's a corruption that we can baptize and sanctify. That should never happen. Corruption is corruption. Even if your brother is corrupt and you are in government, expose him. So that will take us to our next question. Our next question there, sorry, our operator is not responding. The next question here, I think is, sorry, our operator in the background is not responding. Why are the lives of foreigners always at risk in any South African political upheaval? You know, there is a trend in South Africa, my brother. They always, this issue of xenophobia. Anytime there is any kind of uprising, there's any kind of demonstration in South Africa, foreigners, particularly Africans, are the target. And people have been trying to explain this for different reasons. But for me, when I look at it, I can't wrap my mind around it. South Africa is a country that all African countries helped to free from this apartheid regime when the Europeans were dominating them. But these same South Africans today, whenever they have any problem in their country, they attack African residents in their country. Nigerians, Zimbabweans, and all these neighboring people that come to their country to kind of hustle one or two things. They burn down their stores, they loot, they even kill them. We know about the xenophobia attack, a few years back. So people try to explain that. For me, I look at it as the failure of the politicians and the elite, the intellectual elite, to inform South Africans about their true history and about their relationship with the rest of Africa. That failure is what is being reproduced as violence. Because number one, the South Africans are looking for jobs. They don't have jobs. They see their country look like industrialized country. They see factories everywhere, but they don't have jobs. Their land is in the hand of the white minority. And the only explanation the politician gave to them is that there are foreigners from Zimbabwe that are taking your job. The foreigners from Nigeria are taking your job. That's always normal for African politicians. They shift the blame on the foreigners. They shift the blame on soft target. So by the time they shift the blames like that, the population begin to see these foreigners or their fellow Africans as a threat to their own development. That's what is happening. Instead of the intellectual elite to tell the people that you are poor in South Africa because your land is in the hand of the white minority. And the white minorities are in charge of your factories and your industries. The Indians are in charge of your businesses. And you don't have jobs because your politicians are stealing your money. This is the reality. But what they tell the people is that it is these foreigners from Zimbabwe, these foreigners from Nigeria, they are the ones taking your job. So the poor people, the ordinary South African on the street, he feels that his life is in shambles because Nigerians have taken his opportunity, because other Africans have taken his opportunity. This is the irrational thing that is happening in South Africa. So instead of attacking the billionaires and the rich, they go after their fellow hustlers and burn down their boutiques, burn down their little shops. It's very, very unfortunate. The only man in that country who is speaking the truth is Julius Malema. Julius Malema always tells them, the Nigerians are not your problem. The Zimbabweans are not, the Congolese are not your problem. Your problem is the politicians. The politicians who have failed to realize the dream of the apartheid struggle. The politicians who have betrayed the apartheid struggle. They've sold out to the white minority and they sold out to all the white capitalists. Instead of them to make the case to the people, they are now saying that no, it is these poor Nigerians, Zimbabweans, they are the cause of your problem. I think that's why the South African always react in the way they do. And I think all African politicians across the board, they do the same. If you go to my country, when people are poor and they don't have jobs, the politicians tell them maybe it is these people from Guinea, it is these people from this other area that are taking your job. Instead of them to tell the truth and say that it's the politicians who are failing you. They have destroyed the system. That's why you are in what you are in right now. The same thing happened in Ivory Coast. In the 90s, when there was no the economic collapse, because Ufwe Boigny made some miscalculation. And then the economic collapse, they started saying it was the foreigners that caused the problem. That's brought about ivoirité. They started attacking the African, the fellow ECOWAS citizens from Mali, Burkina Faso. They started attacking them. That led to the Ivorian Civil War. So the African politicians always instigating, carrying this false narrative, stirring up xenophobia and tribalism, instead of them speaking the truth or saying the fact that it's because of the failure of the economic elite, the intellectual elite, and the political elite. Because of the failure of the three groups of elites, that's why we are in this mess. Instead of them to make that case, they are accusing other poor citizens who go to hustle. Donald Trump was doing that. He was telling the Americans, your problem is the Mexicans. Your problem is the Africans and migrants. So that's how you see the Republican Party were gearing up to vote him. These tactics don't work. It's very wrong. And I think South Africa will continue to be like that until the ANC becomes true to itself, and then it goes back to the revolution table, and then follow the philosophy of Chris Hani, follow the philosophy of the founding fathers of that party, and that's the only way they are going to save the South African people. You can come in, brother, and add yours.
Oh, thank you very much. I think the South African system has actually been corrupted, and we are seeing foreigners' life at risk in South Africa because xenophobic mentality have taken over most of the people in the country, especially the deprived. And those who are deprived, if you have that xenophobic way of thinking, they tend to see foreigners as a threat to them. But I don't think whether those foreigners are the one controlling the South African economy. It is their own brothers, their own sisters who are controlling the South African economy. No foreigner who is not a South African has ever been made a minister or a president. It is their own brothers and sisters who are taking over ministerial position, presidential position. It is their own brothers who are corrupting the entire economy of South Africa. But we are having a kind of carefully planned corrupt politicians into South Africa who have radicalized the common South African brain differently, and they normally direct their mentality against foreign people, saying that these people present are a threat to your existence. I think there is an existential threat into South Africa, especially when it is in respect of livelihood, and foreigners have unfortunately found themselves to be between the Red Sea and the devil. They may not know where to run because sometimes they even see the police as a threat to their own existence, and they cannot even go to the community of locals or local South Africans. They're definitely going to see themselves as a threat. I think we need to have a kind of well-organized civil society system into South Africa, and we need to have a kind of strong political sensitization and people who know the deep root cause of South Africans and the poverty that they are going on. People need to actually explain to them that the presence of foreign people on the South African soil is definitely not responsible for the penniless situation that they are living in. It is because their government is corrupt. They are having corrupt politicians, and they have failed to investigate their past government officials, and even the apartheid mentality is still living into South Africa. Foreigners have got nothing to do with these things there. But always, whenever it is a kind of political upheaval into South Africa, you see the life of foreigners becoming a threat. Unfortunately, we are seeing a kind of a government system where they only have a kind of system that may lead to another corrupt attitude. We are seeing government officers who are violating the life of others, but yet nobody is taking sole responsibility to prosecute those who are responsible. We have seen how on numerous occasions, Nigerians, South Africans, Angolans, Nigerians, Zimbabweans, Zambians have come under attack because of economic crisis into South Africa. We want to see a kind of well-constructed system where everybody will be willing to prosecute those who have violated the South African economy. No foreigner is leading the South African government. It is South Africans themselves who are discharging the responsibility of their government. So how should a foreigner come under attack because of crime he or she doesn't commit? And most of those foreigners, they are only business people. Only they have to mend their own affairs because of most of the neighboring countries, especially like Zimbabweans. You may find a lot of Zimbabweans today into South Africa. It is because they do not have a well-structured government into Zimbabwe. And above all, I think South Africa need to come up with certain things. Like we are seeing now, we have seen a lot of small existing into South Africa. And this citizen uses as a means to damage other citizens' life. I think all of these things need to be restricted. And South Africa and the judiciary system need to work. And they also need to have an independent police force, because the police force is another great violator of the South African, of citizens, of especially foreigners into South Africa. So all of these things need to, I think we need to, there should be a kind of a general meeting, especially on Africa, in respect of South Africa, because it is one of the few countries into Africa where foreign nationals, especially African brothers, lives are actually a threat into South Africa. So this thing need to be brought up on board, and especially now we are seeing Cyril Ramaphosa being the head of AU. All of these things need to be put across and let them discuss this. Unfortunately, No one is responsible to solve South African problems except themselves, and they should stop attacking foreigners because they are not responsible for any of their crises. It is their own government officers who are corrupting the system.
Indeed, no one can solve the problem of South Africa except South African themselves. That's a powerful statement from my co-host Edward Amara there. And we hope the South Africans are listening. Their problem is not coming from Nigerians or Zimbabwean. It is the ineptitude of their politicians. It's the failure of their system, and it's the corruption of their own political elite that is now leading them to abject poverty and destroying their economy. Our time is up, and I would like Edward Amara to come with a closing statement so that we can wrap it up. Edward Amara, what's your closing statement today for this interesting topic, the trial of former president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma?
Thank you very much. I think the trial of former President Jacob Zuma have a lot of implication on our African democracy. The outcome of this trial is going to set a space for other African countries that we are going to copy from the positive precedent that the judiciary is set into South Africa by bringing to book a former president who carefully corrupted their government and enriched himself overnight. If most of the properties can be seized, if he's found guilty, sent to in prison, and all those, the cabal that he actually formed to corrupt the South African system, are being prosecuted and their properties confiscated, and they are carefully brought to book. If they are going to be brought to book by an independent judicial system, I think that one is going to set a kind of perfect start for African countries. Just like we have what happened was it in Malawi, where you have, or was it Zambia, where was it? Okay, in Kenya, we saw weakness where the National Electoral Commission turned over the result of somebody, Uhuru Kenyatta, who is there today. Another election was conducted, though he won. We also saw similar case like that in Zambia. So these are some of the things that we need to do. We need perfect precedent into Africa. Just the way we have seen the ACCA, the Anti-Corruption Commission, independently fighting corruption. We need some of these good precedents so that when they are set into Africa, we may emulate them and have a perfect continent to live. And South Africa should always try to solve their own problem instead of blaming foreigners. Nigerians, Angolans, Zimbabweans are not responsible for their own problem, because we do not want the kind of mentality of hatred to be spread over Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edward Amara. My take on this topic today is that transparency is very, very necessary in African governance. It's important that we hold our leaders accountable. It's important that we expose corruption, because corruption kills, corruption is poison. Corruption is indeed a weapon of mass destruction that can destroy an entire generation. And we are already feeling that heat in Africa. There is no curse, there is no medicine, there is no evil from any God that is upon Africa. It is because our leadership have failed. It's because we have covered and clouded our leaders who are evil, and we decided to protect evil. That's why we are having all these consequences. There should be transparency. Former leaders should be held accountable. Like Jacob Zuma, it's not taboo to arrest a president, okay? It's not taboo to arrest a leader, a former leader who has done something bad. Chinese are doing it. In Korea, they are doing it. In fact, some people sentence their former leaders to death, okay? When you are corrupt, you have no need to be in our midst, because you are going to destroy our future and destroy our generation. So we should not protect any corrupt person. If you are in politics and your political party is corrupt, try to make a change. If they cannot change, resign. Okay? For me, any party I join, if there is no transparency, there is no truth, I will resign. I have no reason to participate in anything if it is not transparent, as long as politics is concerned and governance is concerned. Because we don't go into politics to get rich, we go into politics to serve and sacrifice for our people. So the trial of Jacob Zuma is good news. It shows that democracy is evolving, and our governance style is changing rapidly, and we will no longer give a free pass to former leaders who are corrupt. they will be held accountable, they will have their day in court, and they will be prosecuted. With that, we say thank you for watching Focus on Liberia and our program, Roundtable Africa. Next week, again, we will join you as we bring you an interesting topic on the issue in Afghanistan and the terrorists, the victory of the Taliban. We will bring that to you and discuss what the impact that will have on Africa and the implication, the lesson we can draw from that as Africans. So please join us next week as we bring you the best from Roundtable Africa. With this, we say goodbye.
We all Liberia.